All right, guys, let's start. Let's start, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Now I'm introducing you to the costing aspect, right? The financial requirement of a new venture, right? A new venture, a new business, right? So the financial aspect of it is very important. You need to know how much to spend, right? In regards to the expenditure, how much to spend on your product, and from there you should be able to know, establish how much to sell your product. Right. We got what we call income and expenditure. Which register? Okay, later. I'm gonna take care of this later, right? Okay. Okay. Right. Yeah, no problem. Okay. Guys, when you listen, don't make noise, don't make noise. Time is going, right? Let's optimize the time, right? Please, those are sad attractions. We don't focus on all those stuff. The main focus is for you to put something in your brain. Right. Okay. So when you are starting a new business, obviously, you need to get yourself preoccupied by trying to establish whether your business is going to make profit. You understand what I mean? A business is different from a or from an NGO, non-profit organization. Non-profit organization, they are not there to make profit. But you as a business person, you are there to make profit, right? So you need to look at your business holistically and try to do what we call a feasibility study. Feasibility in the sense that you need to establish whether your business can be able to generate profit. You need to look at the cost of your products, the product that you want to sell or you want to produce. Then you look at the price, how much you need to sell the product, right? Because in a situation whereby the cost is becoming too much, right? And your price is not competitive in the marketplace, people are not going to buy from you. So you must charge a competitive price. And for you to be able to charge a competitive price, your cost of production must be low, right? Otherwise, you will not be able to drive well in the marketplace. So, in considering that, what you need to ask, or some of the questions that might come to your mind, could be, what are all the costs involved in the proposed new venture? What are all the costs? I want to start a business. I want to start producing something. I want to start selling something. What are the costs involved? You need to know, right, before you can be able to make a rational decision. Then you might also like to preoccupy yourself in trying to know about the break-even point of this new venture. You know what we mean by break-even? Break-even. Some of you might not have seen this before. Break-even. Hello, break-even. Have you seen this before? You know about this? Okay. When you are doing a business, right, a break-even point is a point in a business or at any time in a business whereby the business is neither making the profit nor a loss, which means the sales is exactly the expenditure. Sales equals expenditure, or sales equals the cost. Does it make sense to you? Sales, you know, yeah, this sales minus, okay, sales, how do you pronounce it? Okay, sales, right? Minus cost. equals zero. That is at a break-even point. Yeah. Which means the income, right, minus expenditure equals zero. Does it make sense to you? Right. Sales could be, you can call it income, you can call it turnover, you can call it revenue, right? Because when you sell your product, then you're gonna get money, right? So that one is the sales. You may pronounce it the way you like, but as long as you comprehend what I'm saying, that is the most important thing, right? Okay. So you need to, now you know what is a break-even point, right? There's a formula to calculate break-even point. We use a fixed cost, right? You know what is a fixed cost? Cost that doesn't change irrespective of the volume of sales or the volume of production, if you will. So we use a fixed cost, we say fixed cost divided by gross profit percentage or gross profit. You know what is a gross profit? We're going to come to that, right? So you need to be able to establish, right, how the new business is going to be financed. In which way can the proposed new business be financed? Financing a new business, there are different ways to finance a new business. Perhaps you can use from your pocket, from your savings, right? The one you've accumulated over a certain period of time. You invest it in your business, right? Or you could perhaps look for loans. You know, loan. You approach the bank with your business plan, then you talk to the bank people that you need money. Now, when they look at your profile, they discover that you are credit worthy, then you might be given a loan. You might be granted a loan. Do you understand what I mean? You can as well borrow from friends, families. Do you understand? You approach your friends or families that you got a very good business venture that is viable. They decide they can give you money. Or you can look for what we call venture finance, venture capital. There are certain companies, what they do is that they invest in businesses. They look for viable businesses to invest in. You can as well approach them. For example, business partners those days, I used to approach them. There was a time we approached them for when we were trying to float freight and logistic business. So it's a kind of freight and logistic business. Okay. Then what is profit? Or what would be how is profit calculated and how can a profit be made? Like I said, you need to know the cost of your items that you purchase to be sold. Right. So you need to be able to formulate a good price so that when you sold your product, then you remove the cost, you should be able to make profit. How much do the product of the new business actually cost? Of course, how much do competitors charge for the same product? This one is very, very important. You cannot charge more than your competitors, most especially if your business is nascent. Nascent means new. Or if your business is still in the embryonic stage. You know what we mean by embryonic stage? Embryo is just a come as a nascent business. Nascent, say, just started, right? It's still crawling. Doesn't even start standing, right? Like a baby. Right. So you must look at your competitors' prices. If you charge more than them, nobody gonna buy from you. Right. So all these things are what you need to preoccupy yourself with to start with. Then we're going to talk here about what makes the income and expenditure of a new business. Right. When you're running a business, obviously, you are going to come across, or there are situations, obviously, where you need to spend money and where you need to generate money as well. Right. Depends on the type of business you are doing. For example, if you are selling products, right, items like a retail business, you buy from the wholesale shop, right? Then you bring them to your shop, then you sell. Obviously, when you are paying for those items or when you are buying those items, what happens? You are taking out money from your pocket or from your banks to pay for those products. Or something. Right. Now, when you bought those products, what is going to happen? Are you going to sit with the product? Obviously, you need to sell the product, right? When you purchase the product, money is coming out from your business. Don't drag it on the floor, please. You're making noise, right? Why didn't you look for empty space there to sit? But next time, don't do it like that, right? So when you sell the items, then money comes to you. Right. So for you to be able to establish your profit, you need to deduct what cost you or the cost to you to buy the product minus this income that comes through sales. Then whatever remains, which we call the leftover, is what we call the profit. Does it make sense to you? Right. Now let's try to go deeply unpack it again in terms of knowing exactly what constitutes the cost. Right. We say the total cost of the business is are made up of variable costs. Variable. Variable cost is a cost that changes, right? It fluctuates as per the volume of sales. You could say the volume of sales, or if you will, you can say according to the volume of production. You understand? Either way suffices, right? Volume of sales or volume of production. What it means is this, right? The more, your business is selling, making money, right? The more you sell your product, the more that you are going to buy, right? The stock to replenish your product, your stock. The more you're gonna go out to buy product to replenish your stock. For example, if I'm selling Maguire, right? I've got okay. Let me use okay. Let me say I'm selling computers. All right. Every week 10 computers, right? If every week I'm selling computer, the cost that I'm going to is going to cost me to buy the computers, it remains the same, right? But if the sales goes up to 15, that means I'm now going to look for money to buy 15 because my business is growing now. So the items that I'm buying needs to increase. So the money I need to expend in buying the item, the computer I'm selling, needs to go up. I'm not saying that the unit price is gonna go up because now instead of going out to buy 10, I'm going to buy 50. If the sales supposed to go up maybe to 20, now I have to look for money now to buy 20. So it goes as per according to the sales. Does it make sense to you? Okay, that is for if you are selling, buying and selling. What if you are producing, you are making something? For example, if I'm making maguire, right? If every week I'm selling 50 maguires, right? So if that amount happens to increase to 70, so what it means is that my materials that I'll be buying to make 50 will have to increase, right? The cost of the materials that I've been expending to make 50 have now increased to 75 because I'd have to make more now. Like the simple example I gave yesterday, right? For example, how many of you in your family? Three. Okay. When you are making a pap, maybe you use you don't eat pap. Do you eat pap? Okay. How many cup of flour do you use to make pap? Milli. You see, okay, two. Now, when you have another family of three coming to join you, obviously it's gonna increase. You're gonna spend more, right? That is what we are trying to say. So it's variable. That is a variable cost. Does it make sense to you? Is my explanation clear? Do you understand it? Okay. Who else? Who doesn't understand? Ah, look, you at the far end. Do you understand? Okay. Now, fixed cost. Fixed cost doesn't change. Right? Irrespective of the sales, irrespective of the production, it remains the same. right? For example, okay, let's give example of variable cost. Materials, raw material that you are using, raw materials, items that you are selling could be like we could use those as variable cost. Fixed cost, it doesn't change. For example, if you have okay, if you are paying a rent, you pay rent in where you are selling your business. Even if your business sales has gone up or down, you're gonna still pay the same thing. Do you understand? Right. Okay. Let me give another example of salary. You know, salary. If you employ somebody to be in the shop for you, right? That person is always there. You got a fixed amount you are paying that person, right? So when the business is booming or when the sales volume increase, is the same money, right? So what you need to, let's say for example, when the sales increase, now you employ casuals to assist that person there. So when the sales goes down, then you tell the casuals to go, right? You know casuals to assist. So the money that you pay casuals, wages, is a variable cost. But that one that you pay that guy that is there, whatever the sales volume, that person is always there, which means you pay that person's salary. If you decide to be paying that person's salary, that salary is a fixed cost. Wages is a variable cost. Does it make sense to you? Right. Okay, let's talk about logistic, transport. Petrol is a variable cost because the more your business is booming, you drive around, you know, to go on there, buy stock to deliver to customers. So variable fare on its own is a variable cost. Does it make sense to you? Right. Telephone, right? You need to buy airtime to call, right? Buy data. The more customers you got, the more you need to run around to buy airtime to communicate with your customers. So by virtue of that, it's a variable cost. Guys, are you going on? How I wish, no, wait. Let me just finish this aspect. Hello, give me 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes. Right? Okay, you see the sales. Guys, listen. When the products are being sold, then you make money. That is what we call sales. The product or service that the business sells to its customer for a particular period. So when that one constitute the income. So the cost constitute the expenditure. So when you minus the expenditure from the income, then you have profit, which we regard there as the leftover. Leftover in the business after all costs have been deducted from the total sales. Right. Okay. So let's stop here. We're gonna continue from here next week. Right?